could either dodge it or just lose to it. And he was fine with that. And Brad was just like, no, that's absolutely wrong, you know?
Well, we're going to see who's right now. It's a duress targeting Brad Nelson from Jared Boettcher. We got a Swamp, a Godless Shrine, and an Urborg. Those cards cannot be selected. Neither can the Desecration Demon or the Obsidian, but the Thoughtseize and the Hero's Downfall can, and we'll see what Jared wants to take.
This is a really good hand from Brad, too.
His hand is pretty good.
Yeah, just missing the second white source, but you got to imagine by turn 5 he's going to find it. You know, he has 5 draw steps.
I got a feeling he's going to take Thoughtseize. I'm guessing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you could take the Downfall, but Thoughtseize is going to be able to get whatever the Downfall could anyway.
Godless Shrine going to pass the turn back over to Boettcher. Boettcher draws a copy of Gray Merchant, going to play a Swamp and kick it back over to Nelson, who will draw a card. It's a second Urborg.
I believe that I am responsible for that second Urborg. So, sorry, Brad.
Yeah, we'll
Oops.
See if he wants to play one this turn or not. He's going to play a Pack Rat and pass the turn back. Put Boettcher to the test right away.
Yeah, knowing that Jared has Nightveil Spectre in his deck, playing Urborg is kind of dangerous because if his third land is a Mutavault, then he just gets to play Nightveil Spectre for free, essentially, so.
It's a Sign in Blood here from Boettcher. It looks like he picked up Desecration Demon and a Swamp. He does play the Swamp before passing the turn back over to Nelson, who will play an Urborg and pass the turn back. Brad does have a 4th land, but it's not the right one to play. It's a backup Urborg, a Temple of Deceit here from Boettcher.
He's almost certainly cursing me right now.
Yeah. Blame Jerry. Boettcher will scry. He will take a look at the top card, decide where he wants it to go. I think we might see him play that Nightveil Spectre in just a moment.
We saw Nightveil Spectre be pretty powerful in mirror matches earlier, that time in the mono blue matchup, but this one, it is just as good, if not better, but there is more removal, so it is tougher to connect with one, but still very, very powerful card.
Boettcher deep in the tank on this scry. Not sure what he's looking at, but he does decide to keep it on top. Doesn't even play the Spectre, just passes the turn back. Nelson did draw a land, that's important. It's a copy of Orzhov's Guildgate, and that's the second white source as well.
Yeah, I actually thought the card on top might be a Thoughtseize to try and protect a Spectre, and that's what it was. So it all makes sense now.
Take a look at the grip. Jared will see the second Urborg. Might get a chuckle out of that, we'll see. Along with an Obsidian, Desecration Demon, Hero's Downfall, and Bile-Blight.
Yeah, so a few options here. You could take one of the threats. You know that Obsidian could potentially come down next turn. If Jared doesn't have a Hero's Downfall, that's going to be tough to deal with. And it is very worth it to, you know, play your second Urborg to cast that Obsidian, for sure. And his previous plan might have been to take a removal spell and play Nightveil Spectre, but since he knows that Brad has 2 removal spells, maybe that's not worth it.
Yeah, Brad immediately is going to Bile-Blight that. And he will draw his card this turn. It's a copy of Caves of Kolios. So the 5th land would have been on time.
Yep.
He will drop the Caves. And now it's time for a Desecration Demon. So we'll see if Boettcher has an answer to the 6/6 flyer. Jared will draw a card. He draws a copy of Underworld Connections. Boettcher has 3 of those in his main deck where Brad only has 2.
Correct. How many Sign in Bloods does Jared have? 2?
Jared has 2 Sign in Bloods.
And Brad has none.
Gotcha. So Underworld Connections is going to come into play for Boettcher. He's going to activate this right away. Draws a copy of Watergrave, put that into play, tapped, and pass the turn back. He's at 15 now. He's going to go down to 9 in a second. Nelson's going to play a Temple of Silence. The top card is going to go to the bottom. Here's your attack. Boettcher's going to go down to 9. But Boettcher knows the contents of Nelson's hand. He knows he has nothing else. So all Nelson can do is pass the turn back to the reigning Rookie of the Year. He does have 5 lands in play, but he's having a bit of mana issues, it seems, right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically the spot you want to be in if you're Brad. It would have been perfect if he had some sort of follow-up threat, but like this is the best way to beat Connections, is force them to take a turn off from killing your creatures, to play Connections and draw a card, and then deal them big chunks of damage to make their Connections ineffectual. Now, obviously, Gray Merchant is the perfect follow-up to that, give you some more life points, some more breathing room, some more cards off Underworld Connections, but what Brad needs here is another threat, like that Obsidian getting Thoughtseize was huge.
I was wondering if Jared had any interest in maybe sacrificing the Gray Merchant to not take 6 that turn.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, he does have another Gray Merchant, so that is 2 less life for like the drain later on.
He decided to take the 6, so he goes down to 7. Nelson's flooding out a little bit now.
Well, he does have 27 land and not a lot of card drawers.
Betcher's going to go down to 6. Draws a copy of Far and Away. So now here's an attack for 2. Nelson going to go down to 14. Brad will untap. Looks like he drew a copy of Hero's Downfall. That is in a way. So bye-bye goes Desecration Demon.
That was kind of tricky too. Like Jared gave Brad the opportunity to draw a Mutavault potentially, and sack that to the Edict. So
it could have definitely worked out poorly for him.
It could have.
In for 2. There's a Hero's Downfall, finally. But Brad has a replacement one of those, I believe, in his hand. Betcher's going to go down to 5. Use that life total as a resource here, that's for sure. Here's another Gray Merchant. Will Nelson fire off another removal spell here with that in the stack? He will. So Betcher's only going to gain 2 life now, and Nelson will be drained to 2 life. Nelson draws a card. This is a timely draw. He drew one of his 2 Underworld connections.
And that's pretty good for him. Games at parity for the most part. Brad has slightly more life than Jared. Gets an Elspeth off the connections, which is certainly one of his better cards.
Played a Caves, pass the turn back. Brad doesn't look like he's thrilled about like the position that he's in. We're kind of at parity right now, but Jared has more life, or excuse me, more cards.
Yeah.
As he goes down to 6 to draw another one. And Brad's hand is pretty weak right now. You know, he's got that backup board. He's got the Elspeth that he's hoping doesn't get Thought Seized, I imagine. There's a Desecration Demon and a Nightveil Spectre, and he won't get Thought Seized, so that's actually pretty good for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for Jared to Thought Seize in that spot when he has 2 good threats to play. He's low on life, and Brad basically just drew a random card. You know, it's like, what are the odds that that card is something really powerful? Well, in this case, it's an Elspeth, which is pretty good.
So Elspeth's going to take up to 5. 3 soldier tokens are going to come into play. Brad's going to play Urborg.
See, not that bad.
yeah, you saved yourself. Pass the turn back over to Betcher. Again, Betcher at 6, Nelson at 11. Those Elspeth soldier tokens are going to try to keep those Desecration Demon, the Desecration Demon in check. But Betcher is drawing another copy of Gray Merchant now. And that's a pretty big one here. There's Bile-Blight to get those out of the way. And I think we're looking at I think we're looking at lethal here.
Well, I think Brad's last card is an ultimate price.
That's good.
Yeah, so I don't think he's taking lethal damage, but he's certainly falling pretty far behind. You know, if he wasn't already.
Yeah. That last card being ultimate price is huge because he'd be dead right now. So
right.
He's pretty close to being dead. I mean, he needs a string of cards to get himself back into this thing.
Yeah, but here's a Gray Merchant, drain for 7, putting Brad at 2, Jared at 12. And it's going to be pretty tough for Brad to win from there, I think.
Betcher wants to deploy the Gray Merchant this turn if he wants to play Desecration Demon. He's going to start by playing Temple of Silence. Top card is going to the bottom. And now there's a Demon. Pass the turn back over to Nelson. Nelson will untap all that stuff. Again, he's at 2 right now, so he does get a Connections
he's still at 9. He didn't get Gray
Oh,
Merchant.
you're right. Excuse me. So he's down to 8. Bermaz and a land. Looks like he's ticking up. So there's the tokens.
Yeah, I think at this point, Brad knows he's just dead to a Gray Merchant. There's nothing he can do. Just trying to play the game in such a way that assumes that Jared just doesn't have it or won't find it.
Yep. You do get to the point where you just can't play around it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, if they do have it, okay.
See what Jared wants to do this turn. Yeah, he's just going to play the Gray Merchant. And that's going to do it. So, Jared Betcher, our reigning Rookie of the Year, number 7 on our Open Series leaderboard here for Season 3, is up a game here over Brad Nelson. Black-Blue Devotion up over a Black-White Midrange. We'll take a look at the sideboards. You've got Nelson's in front of you. How much better do things get for him?
A lot better.
Okay.
You know, he's got a lot of removal spells main deck and a lot of cards like Brimaz that aren't very effectual, but his sideboard has 2 Underworld Connections, a Last Breath, 3 Drown in Sorrows, an Archangel of Thune, 2 Duress, 2 Sin Collector, 2 Doomblade, 2 Deicide. So he has a lot of help. There are a lot of different things that he could do with the sideboard. Like some people want more discard, they want the Duresses. Some people think that the rest isn't that great. It goes dead way too quickly, but something like Sin Collector is very good, especially against someone like Jared Betcher who has Devour Flesh in his deck. So Sin Collector not only gets a removal spell out of their hand, but blanks any further Devour Fleshes to protect something like Desecration Demon or Obsidian. Other than that, the other two Underworld connections definitely coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on how feisty Brad is feeling, he might bring in the Archangel of Thune.
I saw it last round.
I don't think it's there for that, but it was also not there for the blue-white deck that he played against last round. So you do see the major difference in their sideboards is that Brad respects the Rebel Red deck, has 3 Drowned Sorrows, where, you know, Jared has none. So
Well, being friends with Tom probably causes that too.
yeah,
Also, he played the Rebel Red deck at the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
So he knows what needs to be done to beat it. We take a look at Betcher's sideboard. Again, no Drowned Sorrows, no Freaking Skurs, but that's okay because that doesn't really matter in this matchup. 3 Doomblade, 3 Lifebane Zombie, 3 Duress, 2 Negate, 2 Erebos, God of the Dead, a Notion Thief, and a copy of Underworld Connections. Jared in his main deck has 3 Connections and 2 Sign in Blood, so he could actually move up to 4 in 2 of that, which I expect to see happen. Erebos is great in the mirror. It's another card advantage engine. Being able to stop your opponent from gaining life is certainly important as well. Duress, the players do trade discard spells back and forth. The questions I actually have for you. Negate, do you like that here?
Negate, no.
Okay. I feel like a lot of the time you're going to draw that at the wrong time. And it's going to be kind of a break.
There's also that issue, but also, like, you very much want to be keeping pace with what your opponent is doing, and that means basically tapping out every single turn. You don't really have that luxury of keeping open 2 mana, and it is super weak against Thoughtseize, both in that they can take it with Thoughtseize, but also if they know about it, they don't have to walk into it.
Okay. Do you like Notion Thief?
Not really. I mean,
Too cute?
it is super cute. It's like you might get them the first time, and then from then on, they just have to, they don't get the option to connections on their turn, which is, it's okay, but I don't think it's worth a card.
Okay. Okay. Well, it'll be pretty straightforward then. Duresses, Erebos, and Underworld Connections, I imagine will be the 6 cards that we
I
do
mean,
see them in.
I like Lifebane Zombie too. Brad has Obsidian.
Yeah, that's true. Now, he doesn't have Blood Baron, but you don't know if Jared knows that.
Right. I mean, Brad's been writing about this. I'm not sure how much content Jared reads or whether or not he just does his own thing or whatever, but Brad has been very vocal and out there about his list and like how it has gotten to the point that it is. And
He has Bramaz, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he does. I know that Brad changes up whether or not he has Brimaz depending on like player draw. Like he's gonna do whatever he can to not get Lightbane Zombie.
All right, well, let's see what happens here between these 2 great players.
New Brad and old Brad.
Did old Brad ever wear a hat like that?
No.
No, never did.
Brad has beautiful hair. He likes to show
Brad
that
actually
off.
does have really good hair.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I know we talk about Reed's hair a lot and Kibler's hair, but Brad's got good hair.
Yeah.
Todd's got good hair, too.
You're just jealous.
Well, my hair sucks.
Well, yeah,
So-
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I am kind of jealous of people who have good hair. I imagine that Jared has good hair, but he hides it.
Yeah, we never get to see.
I actually don't know the last time I saw Jared without the hat on.
I'm sure there's maybe been some downtime here and there where he relaxes, takes off the hat. Maybe not, though.
Yeah, maybe it's all business always. What if he just has a mullet hanging out under there? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've ever seen him without the hat.
Yeah,
He could have like horns under there. I would have no idea.
could be like Hellboy.
Yeah,
Could be anything, or it could just be hair under there.
maybe there's a Pikachu under there. Who knows?
Maybe that's how he wins.
Yeah.
There's a little Pokemon controlling him, or everything we're saying is false. It's tough to say.
It's one or the other.
Yep.
That's certainly true.
Definitely accurate. Do you think that things get more favorable for Brad after board? Like, do you think things swing his direction now?
It's weird because I generally favor the black deck with the lowest mana curve.
Okay.
The matchup is very much about who gets ahead and who keeps that. And Brad's deck is a little on the slower end. He has all the stuff like Elspeth's, a lot of ETB tap lands, a decent amount of 3 drops. And Jared's deck is pretty lean, you know? And he has less lands, more spells. His top decks are going to be better if they trade discard like they did in game 1 where Brad recovered eventually, but it was a little too late, you know? So I think Jared is the slight favorite, but if it ever does get to a point where they're top decking, Brad can draw something like Obsidian or Elspeth and just run away from the game or run away with the game with it. But whereas Jared might draw something like Devour Flesh, you know, just like not super effectual. But
Pretty quick mulligan there from Nelson. So we'll see if he can find a little something better here with 6 cards.
Did his hand have 2 Urborgs? Is that why he
I
mulligans?
didn't get a great look.
Am I going to get yelled at after this match?
I think you're going to get yelled at because of game 1.
Yeah.
So if it happens again, the yelling will be more stern.
The Urborg was fine that game.
Why the second Urborg?
It's one of the best dual lands when you have like Caves of Koilos and Mutavault in your deck.
Okay.
So like, also Plains, you know?
Sure.
So it makes your stuff into a dual land. And Brad was like super skeptical, but he has 27 land. You can afford to draw a legendary copy of a land. And then even the way that game was playing out where he could have played another Urborg after he added mana with the first one, and then like sacked the old one, kept the new one, made 5 mana, cast Obsidian, and that would have been fine. That's worth it. And you run into those situations, and it might kind of sting that you have to sacrifice your land to do that, but you're fine with it because every other time you draw Urborg, your mana base is so much better.
Sure.
There are certainly considerations to like helping your opponent. You saw Brad was a little reluctant to play it on turn 2, not wanting to turn on his opponent's Mutavault potentially.
Brad does not look thrilled with his 6 cards.
Yeah, it looks like Plains Mutavault.
Ugh.
Plains Mutavault. See, now Urborg would be great here. Just throwing that out there.
Well, there's Bramaz off the top, and now here's an attack for 2. So Betcher's going to go down to 18. Maybe Betcher will play an Urborg. Then again, maybe not. Oh, there's a Caves. All right, he can function. And
So-
he's going to play it. He's going to take 1.
So he has another Plains, so he won't have to take a damage. But if he does draw another Black Source, he gets to play Desecration Demon next turn. So I think that's worth it, just taking that point of damage.
Betcher going to play a Swamp, and now there's a Hero's Downfall to get that thing off the table. Nelson draws a card. It's a copy of Banishing Light. So he will play the Plains and activate Mutavault. Now, Brad does have a copy of Obsidian in his hand, so if he peels a Swamp here, he's doing okay. Let's see what Betcher has. Play Connections, pass the turn back. Big draw here this turn for Brad. There's a Swamp.
So now what do? Do you just run out Obsidian, try and race that Connections, or do you want to like pace yourself, Banishing Light it, and attack with Mutavault, open yourself up to potentially getting Life Baned or Thoughtseized?
I am aggressive, always.
Jam Obsidian.
Give me that 5/5.
Okay.
You've already cast a Downfall, and of course I have plenty of answers to the card, but I don't know if I want that card in my hand right now. Especially because, like, the way that Brad's playing this turn, like, now that he's thought so long about this, like, if Jared draws a Thoughtseize off the Connections for his turn, he's 100% Thoughtseizing him.
Yeah.
So I think now that your turn has taken so long, and your turn wasn't like Banishing Light immediately, hit you with Mutavault, because if you do it immediately, it's like, I don't have anything else to do. So if you thought, like, why would you Thoughtseize me? I don't have anything else.
Right. Might have removal spells or something.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But now that he's thought so long about it, I think he has to play that so that he doesn't get Thoughtseized if he were to hold it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's one of those situations where, like, you think on Jared's turn, if I'm going to draw a Black Source, what do I do then?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty nice that he gets to play it. Jared doesn't have mana available for Hero's Downfall or Devour Flesh. Next turn, it'll come in on his upkeep, and he'll have that Mutavault available to play around Devour Flesh. So you basically make Jared have to have one of his other Hero's Downfalls.
If he has it, good beats.
Right.
That's life.
Yeah, I mean, if he does have it, you're probably not a favorite to win anyway, just because he has so many cards in his hand. Even if you use something like Banishing Light to kill Underworld Connections, he's still got a card out of it. Could very easily just play another one. So I definitely like Brad's line here, just getting aggressive, because you get to play Obsidian. You also have a follow-up in Desecration Demon. You still have that Mutavault. You have Banishing Light for any potential blocker.
See, this is where if I'm Brad, and Brad I think is really, really good at this. He's really good at picking up body language.
Yeah,
Like,
he knows.
Jared's turn, that turn was like, all right, untap, crap. Activate Connections, like, look at my hand. It's just like, all right, like, I don't really have very much. Like, I definitely don't have a Downfall. Like, I think Brad picks up on that, and then obviously Jared taps out or whatever.
Yeah.
But now, like, Brad is just getting, like, hyper-aggressive. He's like, all right, instead of Banishing Light, like, your Connections, like, okay, get your Nightveil Spectre out of the way.
Yeah,
Bash you with both my things.
That's not where this game is going.
Yeah.
I'm removing your blocker, dealing you a bunch of damage. You see Jared at 3 life with the Obsidian looming.
Yep. And Brad is, like, really, really good at picking up at body language. So I think that, I mean, Jared's turn, takes a little while there, but then he ends up just playing Nightveil Spectre. It's like, okay, it's, like, very clear that, like, you don't have the things necessary to beat the Obsidian.
Yeah.
Like, you've kind of made that apparent with, like, your body language. Yes, you have way more cards than me, and I'm on a mulligan, but, like, my best avenue to winning the game now is just, like, getting hyper-aggressive, and hopefully, like, you don't work your way into the cards to get the job done.
Yeah. You have a lot of cards, but do they do anything?
Yeah.
Are they the right cards?
It's going to be a Gray Merchant, I think. Yeah, so it's going to be gain 4, lose 4. I think Brad just had another removal spell. Yeah, so that's going to come in. Betcher's going to go down to 5. Yeah, there's Banishing Light, and that's it. So Brad, even though he mulliganed into a hand that he was not happy with,
Plains Mutavault in essentially a mono black deck.
gets the job done.
Sometimes you just get aggressive.
Hey, I mean, a couple favorable draw steps, but I mean, he has a lot of black sources in his deck. One
Yeah.
Urborg turns all that around, obviously.
And that's why we play 2.
and Nelson's able to tie things up here, and Betcher and him will go to a third game. So pretty entertaining thus far.
Yeah.
In this Black Mirror match. And now, one thing, and I love watching this, especially when we have the great players on camera, is Brad is going back to a sideboard because things change quite a bit from being on the play and on the draw.
Yeah. I talked with Brad earlier. He said that he likes Brimaz on the play because it gets under Lightbane Zombie, but on the draw, it's not so good. But he was also talking about like potentially taking out Desecration Demon, but he kept those in against Jared. So I'm not sure what actual plan he's working with, but he is very much like on the fly kind of sideboarding guy. You know what I mean? Like he adapts to not only the deck, but like the specific cards in the deck and the player he's playing against.
Yep. And that's an incredible skill to have.
Yes.
It's a very, very important skill to have, because sideboarding, even though I know people like sideboarding guides, you know, things that are, you know, kind of set in stone. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this for that in this matchup, but things change depending on what they have and how they play. It definitely varies. So as these players do finish up sideboarding here and getting their 60 ready for game number 3, we will talk about our dual open weekend that is taking place September 27th and the 28th. We're in New Jersey next weekend for our Season 3 Invitational, and because Patrick Sullivan has a way with words as far as scheduling is concerned, since I can't get anything in Cleveland, we're going to go to New Jersey again the 27th and 28th. We'll also be in Indy, which is our old stomping grounds.
Yep.
Many moons ago. So we will have coverage from Mathiasson and Patrick Sullivan when we are in Edison, New Jersey. The Indy Open Series will not have coverage, but it will still be a fun event. Indy always has a fantastic turnout, so if you're in the area or in the Midwest, like we have been before, definitely head out there that weekend. I don't know if we're going to keep doing these things. You know, this is our first attempt at doing a dual Open Series weekend, but I'm excited.
It sounds awesome. And
it's a lot of magic.
I don't know why you say that like it's a bad thing.
No,
but,
not at all.
I was going to say, no one should complain about this whatsoever. This sounds great to me.
Yeah, and also this date is the first weekend that counts as legal.
So this is a lot of good tournament results.
So you get to make your mark on this weekend. You get 2 tournaments of results, like 2 big events. I imagine like the New Jersey Open, again, our largest standard open of all time was in Somerset, New Jersey, the Invitational, where we had like 1,000 people. And I don't know if this is going to be that big, but I imagine it's going to be 600-700 people. And then Indy, we always get a huge turnout for that too.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a lot of results to dissect, maybe a little daily digest, if you'd like.
Could make that happen.
If you'd like.
I know a guy.
Yep, he's pretty smart, kind of good looking. Some would say.
I clean up all right. But
Tough
yeah,
to say.
I would expect each of these tournaments to hit the 500 mark.
Easy.
And then anything past that is just gravy. But like you have 2 500-man tournaments right after a set is released. You got to imagine something good is going to come out of that. You know, some sweet decks.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have plenty of results. It's going to be a really, really fun weekend. Again, coverage in New Jersey brought to you by SCG Live we've got Patrick Sullivan and Mathiasson. I'm off that weekend, so I'll just have my feet up watching people play Magic. And maybe even I'll dabble that weekend.
I mean, you could certainly go play.
That's far from Seattle, and I don't really get a lot of weekends off, so stop enticing me.
So we both lived in Indy. We both lived in Seattle. I just noticed that I'm following you everywhere.
Well, I know good places to live.
Yeah.
There it is. Well, the thing is, you can't really follow me at past Seattle because I'm never leaving.
Okay, that's fair.
So unless you, like,
me neither.
Maybe I move back to Cleveland at some point, but that would be like rather unlikely.
Well, I'm not going there.
I didn't think so. So that's where we break off until you do move there.
Okay.
When Cleveland becomes the future of American Magic again.
Well, you don't even live in Cleveland, right? You live in like Strongtown?
I live in Strongsville.
Muscleville?
Bicepburg, actually.
Yeah, Bicepburg. That's the good one.
It's a great city. It really is. And I'm actually going there after this weekend. I'm going to go see the parental units.
Cool. I like your parents.
You know, I like my parents too.
I would hope so.
They do okay. They leave me alone and let me play Magic during my adolescence.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Betcher is on the play. He doesn't. That is. Well, okay.
Neither of them
I thought he
look
was
happy.
going to mulligan. Like, the way he kept his hand, I thought he was going to mulligan for sure.
I guess I'll Thoughtseize you. Whatever.
Bioblight, Price, Devour Flesh, 4 lands. This is the I don't want to lose the Pack Rat or Nightfall Spectre.
Yeah, but Scryland, the temple's there. Could be an Underworld Connections somewhere in
Double
Red's
white.
future. Double white also. Only has 1 Urborg. So far, so good.
Please let his first draw step be Urborg. Please let it be
I hope he
Urborg.
gets a Scryed away. That's what I hope.
This is this feels like an auto keep, like on the draw against this matchup almost every time.
From Brad's side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue against it, certainly, but, you know, like ultimately you do want some sort of card drawer. Ooh. That's interesting.
I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, so ultimately you want some sort of card drawer or some sort of threat. Brad doesn't have that, and he did not scry on turn 1.
I'm surprised. I actually am. He could have played Temple of Silence on 1. He didn't. He's playing Orborg now, so he's back. He's got much larger plans. This means that Brahmas is not in his deck.
It is not in his deck.
I'll tell you that right now. It's not in his deck. Now, him playing an Urborg on 2 opens up. This is something you talked about game 1. Jared being able to play Mutavault to cast Nightveil Spectre, but he's just going to play Connections and pass the turn back.
Yeah, and that's pretty reasonable when you see that Brad has like 3 black removal spells, you know? You know your Nightveil is just going to die. It might be nice to just get Connections out there. You didn't see any Banishing Lights or Deicides or anything in Brad's hand, so you got to imagine it's pretty safe.
Brad going to play Connections of his own, pass the turn back, but Jared kind of has the initiative at this point since he got to play his Connections first, which means he gets to draw the first extra card this turn, assuming that he wants to. There's a second Mutavault. This is Nightveil Spectre, pass the turn back with Devour Flesh protection. You see Brad has a couple of those in his hand. He also has an Ultimate Price. Again, Nelson has not played his Temple yet. He's been holding on that for some time.
Which is wild.
He's got a larger plan. Now, this actually is really interesting because now Brad is going to cast Devour Flesh, I think.
Yeah.
He's going to say, all right, Jared, what do you want to do?
Do you want to activate your Mutavault and draw a card?
Or do you just want to sack your Spectre?
So Jared saw Bioblight, Devour Flesh, which
Ultimate
have
Price.
both been cast, and Ultimate Price.
Yep.
So if you're Jared, you're like, oh, maybe he's out of removal. Maybe I should activate this Mutavault, keep this Spectre.
Losing Mutavault here is like really important for a couple of reasons. 1, he doesn't get to draw a card. 2, he's down a land. And 3, he's down a Mutavault.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a huge turn for Brad. Because I imagine he's going to Devour Flesh again, so now he gets to take care of that. Now he's ahead on lands. There's no Spectre to worry about, and there's 1 less Mutavault for him to worry about over the course of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you gave Jared a bunch of life with your 2 Devour Flushes, but that was inevitable. That was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I don't think you care about that. Jared going to play a Swamp here. See if he's able to come back from that. I mean, it doesn't feel like a misstep at all. It's just, that's just a good turn from Brad.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not even the worst thing for Jared because in order for Brad to play a second removal spell, he has to tap his Swamp with Underworld Connections. So it's not like Jared just missed drawing a card, like they both didn't draw a card. They're on parity.
Jared is staring at an Erebos, and he's going to deploy that. And he's two devotion away from turning that on.
Yeah, we saw also in his hand a Duress and another Nightveil Spectre.
Nelson still has that Temple. I am very interested to see if this is going to come back to hurt him, that he never played this earlier in the game.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could have played that on turn 1.
Yep.
And he chose not to. Now, Brad has always been a huge proponent of playing Temple on turn 1 is not always correct. He actually believes that it's not correct like a high percentage of the time. And you see him, he's had that since the opening turn of the game, and he's playing it on turn 5.
Yeah, I agree with him there, but his hand was very linear. You just had 3 removal spells. He could probably tell what he was digging for, Like, you want some sort of threat, some Underworld Connections, a creature, anything. But, like, what if you scry into another removal spell? Like,
do you want to put that on top or bottom?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's bottom, but I'm not sure.
Like, in that particular instance, let's say if on one of the earlier turns of the game, he would have scried into that Devour Flesh.
Yeah.
Does he keep that?
It was huge for him.
Yep. He's going to Thoughtseize here. He's going to see a Spectre, a Grey Merchant, and a Duress.
If I were in Brad's shoes, I think you take the Spectre. Ultimate Price covers the Grey Merchant, and then makes it so you're not just getting hit with Erebos every single turn. Although, Jared does have that Duress, so.
Yeah, Brad's hand right now, I believe, is, we know about the Ultimate Price and it's a Hero's Downfall. I believe that's it.
Okay. So even if you get Duress, it's not the end of the world.
He's going to take the Spectre, pass the turn back. Betcher's going to untap those 4 lands, draw a card. Neither player has drawn a card of Underworld Connections yet. It's super important in the mirror, and neither player's activated it yet.
Yeah, like I was saying, it is very much about using your mana every turn to make sure that one of the other players does not get super far ahead of you.
Here's a Duress. Brad obviously knew this was coming. He could have taken this if he wanted to. He chose not to. So Betcher's going to see the Hero's Downfall and the Ultimate Price, and we'll see what card Jared wants to take. He's going to go with the Price.
Yeah,
okay.
I think those cards are both fairly functional the same way in the matchup. Like, Downfall can kill Mutavault and Nightveil Spectre, but that extra 1 mana is huge.
Yep. Black becomes a really good deck when you can play 2 spells in 1 turn.
Yes.
Connections activation from Betcher. It's a Thoughtseize. He's going to pay 2 to draw a card now. He draws another Thoughtseize. He does not find a land. So now Nelson's going to activate his connections. Now players are paying life to draw cards finally.
We have entered that portion of the game.
Yep. Brad will untap. He's got 5 lands. Draws a card. There's a temple. Take a look. See if he likes what he's looking at, as he can draw that card right away with Underworld Connections if he wants to. See, the card that he drew for the turn was his 1 Last Breath.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
I mean,
here.
he also has a second one in the sideboard that he could have potentially brought in. Depends on how much removal he wants in his deck and what he wants to fight. In this case, I feel like since Jared has 4 Nightveil Specters, that Last Breath is actually pretty good, whereas against the Lightbane Zombie variants, you know, maybe you want 1 copy, maybe you want 0.
Yeah, when you see Inspector, you know about Mutavault, and of course Pack Rat.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's definitely some utility being able to kill Grey Merchant as well.
Yep, for
So
sure.
Last Breath is definitely good in this matchup. Betcher draws an Urborg. So finally a 5th land, he's going to deploy that. Will he fire off a Thoughtseize? Yes.
Yeah, I think at this point, Jared has enough discard spells that you just try and clear the way to turn on this Erebos and start getting a life advantage that way.
There's the Last Breath, there's the downfall. There goes the downfall. This is a Lifebane Zombie. That's obviously going to miss, but Erebos is on now, and it's coming in for 5. Will Brad maybe activate his Underworld Connections here to maybe try to find a removal spell?
Yeah, I think you have to. You're going to activate the connections either way, so you might as well try and do that. Find something that you don't mind killing a Lightbane Zombie with.
That'll, of course, shut off Erebos, so it wouldn't deal that 5 points of damage. And the damage adds up, especially when you know your opponent has Grey Merchant in their deck.
Yeah, and plus that's 5 less cards that you can draw over the course of the game with Underworld Connections.
Yep.
And if you think about it in terms like that, it's like, yeah, I would like to draw 5 cards, for sure.
Brad, deep in the tank, probably trying to figure out what can I draw in this situation. He also might be considering, honestly, chump blocking with Mutavault this turn.
Yeah, that's entirely possible, but regardless, I think you draw a card first, give you more information, and then you make a play, you know?
Former Player of the Year, deep in the tank here. All right, he's going to take that damage. Activate Connections, draw a card. He drew another copy of Underworld Connections. Don't have a great look at the hand. But he did go down to 11.
Is that both Last Breaths?
Down to 10 now. Desecration Demon, not great. Really makes you wonder what he's considering on that turn before taking the damage.
Well, I would like to think that it was not block with Mutavault and then Last Breath my own Mutavault, considering there's an Erebos in play to stop him from gaining that life, but I don't know.
Just maybe Banishing Light? Potentially.
Okay, it is a Banishing Light instead of a Last Breath.
That's pretty big.
That is much better.
Actually going to go down to 15 to draw a card. Bet you'll draw another card here. There's a Swamp. You see a Pack Rat. He's had that Grey Merchant in his hand for some time now.
Yeah, and I think Jared's been really good at like pacing the game and waiting until the last and also best possible moment to play the Grey Merchant.
Yep, and Brad knows he has Grey Merchant in his hand, so Brad extends the hand a little bit early. He's like, you're going to take this and just kill me with the Grey Merchant, right? Yeah, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to put him down to 1, but Brad, I think, knows he has no outs.
Yeah.
Now he's going to concede the game. So Jared Betcher is going to win this match over Brad Nelson. 2-1. Black-Blue Devotion taking down Black-White Midrange.
Yeah, just the slightly leaner deck. And you saw once both players got into the Underworld Connections war that Jared was able to come out on top. I think he had more threats overall, and just like his mana curve was lower and just got to present more things per turn that Brad had to deal with. And Brad just kind of like drew a bunch of removal spells, but they didn't kill every single thing that Jared had.